Everyone thought her story with him had ended the night she packed her things into 2 suitcases and walked out of the glass apartment overlooking the city. The rain had been falling hard, blurring the lights of skyscrapers into streaks of gold, and she had told herself not to look back. He was a CEO, powerful, untouchable, born into a world where love was a weakness and family expectations were iron rules. She was just an employee who had once believed his late-night smiles meant more than convenience. When he didn't stop her that night, when his phone stayed silent for weeks, she accepted what everyone else already believed. She had been a chapter he closed without regret. Months passed, and she rebuilt herself quietly. A new job, a smaller apartment, mornings filled with strong coffee and determination. She stopped checking business news to avoid seeing his face. Yet fate had a way of reopening wounds. The invitation arrived unexpectedly, elegant and formal, requesting her presence at a corporate gala celebrating the company's anniversary. She almost refused, but something inside her wanted closure. She wanted to prove to herself that she could stand in the same room as him without her heart breaking. The night of the gala, she wore a simple dress, nothing extravagant, just enough to remind herself of her worth. The ballroom glittered with wealth and power. His family was there, influential and imposing, his mother regal and sharp-eyed, his father calm but commanding. When he walked in, conversations paused. He looked the same, confident, controlled, but when his eyes met hers across the room, something shifted. For a brief second, the CEO mask cracked, revealing the man she once knew. Episode 2 unfolded slowly, painfully. He approached her with careful politeness, as if they were strangers bound by professional courtesy. Their conversation was shallow, safe, but the tension between them was undeniable. His family watched closely, especially his mother, whose disapproval was barely hidden. To them, she was a reminder of a past mistake, someone beneath their expectations. As the evening progressed, speeches were made, glasses raised, and applause echoed through the hall. She told herself she would leave before the final toast. Closure didn't need drama, but as she turned toward the exit, his voice stopped her. He called her name, not loud, but firm enough to cut through the noise. Every instinct told her to keep walking, yet she turned. He took a step closer, then another, until they stood in the center of the ballroom. The music softened, conversations faded, and all eyes slowly shifted toward them. His family stiffened. His mother's face hardened in disbelief. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, there was no hesitation. He spoke, his voice steady but filled with emotion, confessing what he had never said before. He admitted fear, pressure, and the mistake of letting her go to satisfy expectations that never truly mattered. Then, before anyone could interrupt, before his family could object, he leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't rushed or secretive. It was deliberate, public, and final. Gasps rippled through the room. His mother stood frozen. Cameras flashed. She felt the world tilt, her heart racing, disbelief flooding her senses. When he pulled back, he took her hand and turned to his family, choosing her openly, without apology. In that moment, she realized it was never really over. It had only been waiting for courage to catch up with love. The silence after the kiss felt heavier than the applause that followed. Some guests clapped out of confusion, others out of admiration, and a few simply stared, shocked by what they had witnessed. She stood there, his hand warm around hers, unsure whether to breathe or run. His mother was the first to recover, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor as she approached them. Her eyes moved from her son's face to the woman he was holding, assessing, judging, calculating. The air around them tightened. His mother spoke with controlled calm, reminding him of the company, the reputation, the alliances that depended on his choices. Each word felt like a quiet thread wrapped in elegance. She expected him to release her hand, to apologize, to step back into the role he had been raised to play. Instead, he tightened his grip slightly, a silent promise that he would not let go again. He answered his mother respectfully but firmly, saying that the company was strong because of decisions made with integrity, not fear. For the first time, his father intervened, surprised by his son's resolve but clearly unsettled by the public confrontation. She felt exposed, standing between power and tradition, but she also felt something new, protection. He positioned himself just enough in front of her to shield her from the sharpest stares. Guests whispered, phones buzzed, and social media erupted in real time. By the time they left the ballroom together, the story had already spread beyond the walls of the building. She expected him to pull away once they were alone, to explain it all as a reckless moment. He didn't. In the quiet of the car, he apologized, not for choosing her, but for ever letting her believe she wasn't worth choosing. Episode 4 brought consequences. The next morning, headlines questioned his leadership and judgment. Board members called emergency meetings. His mother demanded a private conversation, insisting that this relationship would destroy everything he had built. She watched from a distance as he faced each challenge head-on. He didn't hide her. He didn't deny her. When asked directly, he acknowledged their relationship and took full responsibility, making it clear that his personal life did not weaken his professional commitment. Despite his confidence, doubt crept into her heart. She remembered the night he let her walk away and wondered if the pressure would break him again. One evening, overwhelmed, she tried to create distance, telling him she didn't want to be the reason he lost his family or his company. The pain in his eyes mirrored her own as he told her that losing her once had been the greatest regret of his life. He said he would rather rebuild everything from the ground up than live another day without honesty. His family conflict reached a breaking point during a formal dinner meant to repair public damage. Tension hung thick as in spoken words. When his mother subtly insulted her, he stood up, calm but unyielding, and defended her openly. The room fell silent as he declared that respect for the woman he loved was non-negotiable. His father, after a long pause, acknowledged the strength it took to stand firm, even if he didn't fully agree. Later that night, away from cameras and expectations, she finally allowed herself to believe him. She realized that love wasn't proven by secrecy or sacrifice alone, but by courage in the face of loss. As they stood together, overlooking the same city she once left behind, she understood that this time, the choice was mutual. The past no longer owned them. The future, uncertain but honest, was theirs to claim together. The storm didn't end with his public declaration, it only shifted into quieter, more dangerous territory. Episode 5 began with distance, not between their hands, but between the world and them. Investors pulled back, longtime partners hesitated, and the board demanded proof that emotion had not compromised leadership. He worked longer hours than ever, fighting battles she could only glimpse through tired eyes and late-night phone calls. She tried to be strong, reminding herself that this was the price of truth, yet guilt gnawed at her. Every headline felt like a reminder that loving her had cost him peace. One evening, she overheard a conversation she wasn't meant to hear. His mother's voice, sharp and controlled, spoke of a potential alliance that could solve everything if he were willing to make the right choice. The implication was clear. Old fears surged back, the same ones that had driven her away before. When she confronted him, her voice trembled despite her efforts to stay calm. She told him she wouldn't survive being abandoned twice. He didn't interrupt. He listened, then held her face gently and told her that this time, the choice had already been made, and it wasn't one that could be negotiated. Still, the pressure intensified. A crucial board vote approached, one that could strip him of his position if confidence continued to drop. On the night before the meeting, she considered leaving quietly, believing that her absence might restore stability. She packed a small bag, her heart heavy with love and fear. When he found her by the door, the pain in his expression stopped her. He didn't beg, he simply said that if she left, the company might survive, but he wouldn't. That honesty broke through her final defenses, and she stayed. Episode 6 arrived with the board meeting that would decide everything. She wasn't allowed in the room, but she felt every minute like a heartbeat in her chest. When the doors finally opened, he walked out not as a defeated man, but as someone transformed. He had stepped down voluntarily, choosing to hand leadership to a successor rather than live under constant manipulation. The decision shocked everyone, especially his family. In a quiet statement, he explained that true leadership meant knowing when power demanded the surrender of self, and he refused to lose himself again. The fallout was swift but strangely liberating. Without the weight of expectations, he became lighter, more present. His mother withdrew in silence, unable to understand a son who valued love over legacy. His father, however, visited them weeks later, admitting that courage didn't always look like control. That moment marked the beginning of a fragile reconciliation. As months passed, they built something real and grounded. He started a new venture, smaller but driven by purpose rather than pride. She stood beside him, not as a secret or a liability, but as a partner. There were still whispers, still doubts, but they no longer defined them. One evening, as they walked through the city without guards or schedules, he stopped her under the glow of streetlights and promised her a future shaped by choice, not fear. She realized then that love had rewritten both of them. What began as a public kiss had become a private commitment, tested by loss and proven by sacrifice. She had thought it was over once, that love had an ending shaped by silence. Now she understood that sometimes, endings are only beginnings waiting for bravery.